You are not here by accident, not because of an algorithm, not because of curiosity, and certainly not because you had free time. This moment has been arranged for a very long time, even before you knew what you were searching for. There is a reason your heart slowed the instant these first lines reached your eyes. There is a reason a name, a face, a memory suddenly rose in your mind without you calling it forward. That is not imagination, that is awakening. You have been carrying this feeling for a while now, a feeling that something has not been closed, even though you have tried to move on, tried to stay busy, tried to call it by other names, fatigue, nostalgia, vulnerability, but deeper than that, you know it is not that simple. There is an invisible thread still pulled tight, connecting you to a person, a moment, an intersection you never truly understood. And you have wondered many times whether you are too sensitive, too attached, or simply unwilling to let go. But if you are listening to these words, then the truth is this: there are things in life that cannot be released by logic alone, not because you are weak, but because they were not born from emotion. They were born from a deeper layer, where the soul recognizes what the mind has not yet named. You have tried to explain it the way people usually do. You tried to frame it as a relationship, a phase, a mistake, a lesson, but it kept slipping away from every definition you gave it. There are evenings when you think you are fine. You finish everything, turn off the lights, lie down, and then it returns. Not loudly, not dramatically, just a very clear, very heavy feeling, as if someone placed a stone on your chest and gently asked, "Are you sure you have understood all of this yet?" You do not hear it with your ears, but you hear it clearly inside, and you stayed silent, not because there was no answer, but because you were afraid that if you answered, everything would have to change. You have learned to live with that silence. You call it maturity. You call it acceptance. But the truth is, silence does not mean the end. Sometimes, silence is only a sign that something is waiting to be looked at directly. And right now, you are being invited to look, not to look back with regret, but to look deeper with awareness. There is something you need to know from the beginning. Before this story goes any further, true encounters are never random. They do not come only to make you happy or sad. They come to wake you up. When your path crosses with another person's path, it is not an accident. It is a point of contact drawn long in advance, even if you were never notified, and that is why it does not fade as easily as other connections. You have wondered why some people pass through your life so quickly, leaving behind a few faint memories, then disappearing. But this one does not. Even if they are no longer beside you, even if you no longer speak, even if circumstances have changed, they remain there, like a question that has never been fully answered. And you tried to convince yourself that you were only clinging to the past. But if it were only the past, it would not carry such weight. There is a truth few people say out loud, because it makes us uneasy. It is this: some connections do not come to make you feel safe, but to pull you out of safety. They do not soothe you. They shake you. They do not give you answers. They ask questions. And because of that, they make you uncomfortable, confused, even hurt. But not all pain comes to destroy. Some pain comes to open your eyes. You are standing at a crossroads many have stood at before, even if they did not name it the way you do. One path is familiar. Let go, close it off, call everything finished. The other path is uncertain. Stay with the question. Stay with the unresolved tension. Stay with something that demands you grow one more time. And you hesitated, not because you are not strong enough, but because you can feel the weight of this choice. It is not accidental that at the very moment you are most exhausted, most confused, this story touches you. Some words arrive only when the listener has become quiet enough to hear. Some truths reveal themselves only when you stop running. And perhaps you are at exactly that point, not because you have all the answers, but because you are ready to face the question. I remember a line that echoes very clearly in my mind, as if it was there before you even began to doubt God knows the way that I take. When He has tested me, I shall come out as gold. Those words were written in the Psalms, and they do not promise an easy road. They only promise a meaningful one. And if you feel like you are being tested, perhaps that is not a sign of being lost, but a sign of being chosen. You were not chosen to live a shallow life. And because of that, the things that enter your life are not shallow either. Some connections carry responsibility, even if you cannot yet name it. Some seasons do not come to let you rest, but to prepare you for something you never thought you could carry. And right now, you are standing at the edge of such a season. You can turn away. You can close this page and continue calling everything by the old names. But if you have read this far, then a part of you already knows this story is speaking about you. Not to force you to do anything immediately, but to invite you to stay a little longer with the truth that is slowly revealing itself. Because this is only the beginning of what is being awakened within you. You are beginning to feel more clearly why your heart feels so heavy. Not because memories are returning, but because something is drawing near, like the air changing before a heavy rain. You cannot see anything clearly, but your body knows. Your soul knows. There is a strange pressure surrounding you, not strong enough to knock you down, but clear enough that you cannot ignore it. And you have wondered whether you are becoming weaker, whether you are returning to things that should have been left behind. But the truth is this: not all pressure comes to crush you. Some pressure comes to awaken you. You are standing at a point where, if you look at everything only with your eyes, you will think this is just confusion, misunderstanding, prolonged exhaustion. But if you pause long enough to listen inward, you will realize this is not a purely emotional story. This is a collision between what has been arranged and what is being resisted. You have tried to understand why things became harder right when you thought you had come so far, why doubt arrived in waves, why old thoughts returned with new weight, not because you are moving backward, but because something is being tested. Whenever a true turning point draws near, everything that once slept is stirred. Old fears rise. Wounds you thought had healed ache again, not to pull you back, but to see what you will carry forward. There is a truth that is hard to hear, but you need to hear it right now. Not every battle takes place where you can see it. There are battles that require no noise, no obvious conflict. They unfold in your thoughts, in very small, very private moments, when you begin to wonder whether you have misunderstood everything, whether you have placed too much meaning on something that was never special at all. But if it truly meant nothing, you would not be fighting this hard. No one has to defend what has no value, and no force wastes effort trying to tear down something without weight. You are not imagining the intensity of this struggle. You are sensing it correctly. You were simply never taught how to name it. There is a line written long before you were born, yet it speaks directly into your situation. Now be alert and watchful, for your enemy prowls like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour. Those words were not written to plant fear, but to give clarity. Because the most dangerous enemy is not the one that roars, but the one that whispers. Not the storm, but the quiet erosion. You have begun to feel that erosion. It does not come as a clear decision, but as a series of small thoughts. Maybe I should stop. Maybe everything has gone too far. Maybe I misunderstood from the beginning. These thoughts sound reasonable. They do not look like darkness. They wear the clothing of wisdom. But notice the feeling they leave behind. They do not bring peace. They leave emptiness. You are not being called to make decisions from fear, and if something is pushing you to choose while you are depleted, confused, and denying yourself, then its source needs to be examined. True guidance never makes you shrink inward. It may make you tremble, but it does not make you despair. There are seasons in life when silence is not emptiness, but a battlefield. You have prayed, reflected, waited, yet there seems to be no clear answer. And in that silence, other voices grow louder. The voice of the past, the voice of fear, the voice of accumulated exhaustion. You have started listening to them, not because you believe them, but because you are too tired to resist. But right here, you need to know this. You are not as alone as you think. You are not standing exposed in an invisible war. There is covering you cannot yet see. There is preparation taking place, even when you feel empty. The fact that you are still here, still reading, still listening, is already proof that you have not been defeated. Not because you are strong, but because something stronger is holding you. You do not need to understand everything right now. You do not need to decide everything in a single moment. The only thing you need to do is not turn away. Do not rush to close what has not yet been illuminated. Do not cut off what you have not yet fully seen. Some truths only reveal themselves when you are brave enough to stay in the haze a little longer. And perhaps this is exactly why you are here at this moment. Not to receive answers immediately, but to be awakened from spiritual drowsiness, to realize that what is happening is not as small as you once thought, and that the tension you are carrying is not a sign of failure, but a sign of something being refined. You do not need to do anything yet. Just stay. Just allow the truth to continue unfolding, because what you are facing now is only the surface, and what lies beyond it will ask not only for your feelings, but for a choice made with your entire soul. You begin to realize something very clearly, even if you are not yet brave enough to say it out loud. This story is not only being told to you, it is touching very specific points in your life, points you rarely let others see. And that makes you both curious and cautious, because when something speaks too accurately, too precisely, it is no longer information. It becomes a calling. That person appears again, not as a good or bad memory, but as a marker, an invisible boundary between who you once were and who you are becoming. You remember the first moment when everything began, not exactly the moment of meeting, but the moment something shifted inside you, as if someone gently touched your soul and said, "Pay attention." From that second on, you no longer saw things the same way. You once tried to tell this story in the simplest way possible, that it was just coincidence, that everyone has unforgettable connections, that time would eventually fade everything. But time passed, and many things truly faded. Only this feeling did not. It did not grow louder, but it grew deeper, not sharper, but heavier, like a question resting at the bottom of your heart, never needing to be repeated, yet refusing to disappear. You begin to understand that some connections do not come to stay in the way people expect. They come to mark you, to place an imprint on your journey. And that imprint is not about whether the other person remains present or not, but about the fact that you are no longer the same after they entered your life. Something in you has been opened, a new way of seeing, a new fear, a new longing, and you cannot pretend you have never seen it. There is a line written long ago that echoes clearly in this context. Before you were formed in the womb, I knew you. Those words speak not only about your existence, but about arrangement, that your life is not a random series of collisions, that some intersections are positioned in advance, even when you have no map. And somehow, that person is on that map. What confuses you is not them. It is who you become around them. You find yourself pulled out of familiar defenses. Old answers no longer work. Familiar avoidance starts to reveal its fragility. Sometimes you feel better, sometimes worse, but you are no longer neutral, and that lack of neutrality unsettles you. Because you are used to control, used to knowing exactly where you stand. You once believed that the right connection would bring comfort, but you are learning a different lesson. That some right connections do not bring immediate peace, but bring truth. And truth is rarely gentle. It forces you to face what has not healed. It makes you look at the patterns you repeat. It places you before a question you have avoided for a long time. Are you living by habit, or are you living by calling? You may have blamed yourself for not being decisive, for standing in the middle, not moving forward, not stepping back. But be honest with yourself. You are not standing in the middle because you lack courage. You are standing there because your soul senses that something here is larger than an ordinary right or wrong choice. You are feeling the weight of something unnamed, and you do not want to rush to make it lighter just to feel comfortable. If you are listening to this and feel a quiet resonance inside, you do not need to prove anything. You do not need to explain yourself to anyone. Just know that you are not the only one who has stood here. Others have passed through this story, heard this calling, and they understand the feeling of being seen and challenged at the same time. If you wish, you can leave a very small sign simply to say that you are here, listening, not turning away, not for anyone else, but for yourself. And if you choose to stay, to continue walking with this stream of thought, then stay fully. Not because you need more information, but because some things only open when you allow yourself to listen all the way through. Not every calling arrives with thunder. Some callings come softly, and only those who pause will hear them. This story does not ask you to make a decision right now. It is doing only one thing, placing you before the truth that this connection is not shallow, and your response to it is not shallow either. That may frighten you, but it may also free you, because once you recognize what you are standing before, it no longer pulls you unconsciously. You are beginning to see that this is not only a story about two people. It is a story about awakening, about something touching you at the exact moment you thought you already understood yourself. And from that moment on, your journey cannot return to what it was. Not because you lost something, but because you have seen. If you feel your heart opening, even just a little, allow it to open a little more, because what waits ahead will not be easy, but it will be real, and truth, once seen, will no longer allow you to live halfway. You can no longer call this feeling vague. It has stayed long enough for you to understand that this is not a passing moment of weakness. Something is being revealed, layer by layer, and the more you see, the more you realize you cannot return to the innocence you once had. That person, whether present or absent, still holds a very strange place in your life. Not at the center, but not at the edge either, like a mirror placed at just the right angle, reflecting parts of yourself you once avoided. You begin to realize that each time you think of them, what confuses you most is not what they did or did not do. It is what was stirred within you, the questions you once pushed aside, the wounds you thought had healed, the desires you once believed were unrealistic. All of it is pulled into the light at the same time. And you have wondered how one person could touch so many deep layers simply through their presence. Perhaps it is because they did not come to fill you. They came to reveal the empty spaces, not to lean on, but to help you stand upright. Connections like this are rarely comfortable. They do not give you immediate safety. They make you feel exposed, and the natural human response to exposure is to cover up or to retreat. You have tried both. At times you covered it with logic, with very reasonable explanations. At times you wanted to retreat completely, to cut off, to close everything, to make it simple again. But the more you tried to make it simple, the more restless your heart became. Not because you refused to let go, but because you sensed that this letting go is not only about letting go of a person, it feels like letting go of a part of the process you are being led through. There is something very important you need to face right now. Not every deep connection exists to last forever in its original form, but that does not make it any less sacred. Some connections are sent not to stay as you hope, but to leave a mark. And that mark is not on your memory, but on the transformation within you. You have changed. You may not be ready to admit it, but you know it is true. You are no longer satisfied with old answers. You no longer compromise with things that make you smaller. You begin to question your own motives, the choices you repeat, the way you love, the way you avoid, the way you protect yourself. And all of these questions were triggered from the same point of contact. There is a line in the Psalms that resonates deeply with this state, like a whispered prayer. Lord, search my heart and know my thoughts. See if there is any harmful way in me, and lead me in the everlasting way. That prayer does not ask for comfort, it asks for truth. And when you begin to ask for truth, you must be ready to see what you never wanted to look at. This explains why you feel both pulled back and pushed forward. One part of you wants to return to familiar ground, where everything is predictable, but another part, deeper, will not allow you to pretend you have seen nothing. And that tension is not a mistake. It is the sign of a process unfolding, a refining process, not to make you weaker, but to make you more real. You need to know that feeling uncomfortable does not mean you are on the wrong path. Sometimes, it is the clearest sign that you are stepping exactly where you need to be touched. Shallow connections rarely make you question yourself. They come, they go, and you remain the same. But this connection is different. It does not leave you alone, not because it wants to take you, but because it will not allow you to keep living without facing yourself. You may have thought that if this came from heaven, it would feel gentler, clearer, less conflicted, but you are learning something new. True guidance does not always arrive in the form you expect. Sometimes, it comes as a necessary disruption, like turning the soil before planting. From the outside, it looks like chaos. From the inside, it is preparation. You are not being punished. You are not being tested because you failed. You are being led through a stretch of road that requires you to look deeper, move slower, and be more honest with yourself. And that person, in some way, has become a catalyst for this process, not because they are perfect, but because they touch the right place. If you feel tired, that is understandable. No one passes through refinement without exhaustion, but tired does not mean you should stop. Sometimes, tired simply means you are doing real work. The work of the soul is quiet, unseen, and without shortcuts. It happens in the moments when you sit with the question instead of running from it. You are learning to distinguish between letting go out of fear and letting go because you are being guided. The two can look very similar from the outside, but they feel different on the inside. One leaves behind a cold emptiness, the other leaves peace, even with tears. And if you are honest with yourself, you will know where you stand. This is not yet the time to conclude. This is the time to keep observing, to keep listening, to allow this process to complete what it came to do. You are not being asked to hold on tightly or to release right now. You are simply being invited not to turn away while truth is knocking. And perhaps, for the first time in a long while, you are beginning to understand that this unrest is not your enemy. It is the sign that you are awake. And once a person is awake, they cannot return to sleeping peacefully as before, no matter how much they might want to. You begin to realize that what is happening is not only an inner process within you, but a pull coming from two directions. One side invites you to step deeper into truth. The other keeps whispering that everything is already enough, that you do not need to go this far. And right in that space between them, the tension becomes clearer than ever. Not tension between you and that person, but tension between what is being born and what is trying to be extinguished. There are days you wake up with a very strange feeling. Nothing happened. No new conversation took place. Yet your heart feels heavy as if you just walked through a battle. You are tired in a way sleep cannot heal. You are distracted in a way busyness cannot hide. And you begin to wonder whether you are making everything more serious than it needs to be. Whether you are assigning spiritual meaning to something that is simply human confusion, but then you notice a small detail you used to overlook. Every time you truly want to give up, not in a peaceful way, but in a discouraged way, that is when the inner chaos increases. There is no sense of relief, no release, only a cold emptiness, as if you just turned your back on something very alive. And that is when you begin to understand that some impulses do not come from guidance, but from erosion. You are facing a very old strategy, yet one that still works. No one forces you to give up. There is no shouting, no prohibition, only very reasonable thoughts repeated again and again that you have tried enough, that not everything carries deep meaning, that you should choose the less painful path, and if you are not alert, you will call that exhaustion wisdom. You will call that retreat maturity. But there is a subtle difference you are slowly learning to recognize. When you are truly being guided, even when the road is difficult, you still feel direction. But when you are being pulled by discouragement, everything becomes blurred. There is no light at the end of that decision, only a heavy silence, without hope. And you have begun to sense that difference, even if you are not yet ready to fully trust it. There is a line in the Bible that resonates clearly in this context, not as a threat, but as an explanation. The thief comes only to steal, kill, and destroy. It creates nothing new. It only destroys what is alive. If this carried no life, it would not need to be attacked so persistently. If this connection held nothing beyond the present moment, it would not face such subtle resistance. You begin to see that this battle is not happening on the surface. It is not about who is right or who is wrong, not about who speaks more or who stays silent longer. It is happening elsewhere, deeper. It lies in whether you see this connection as a burden to escape from or as a responsibility to be understood rightly. Not a responsibility to hold on to, but a responsibility to discern. You once thought that if this came from heaven, everything around it would be smoother. But now you are learning a different lesson, that things carrying real weight are rarely given to people with ease. They are guarded, and because they are guarded, they are also attacked. Not because they are weak, but because they hold the potential to give birth to something darkness cannot control. You are not being asked to fight the way people usually do. Not through arguments, not through proving yourself, and certainly not through hardening your heart. This battle does not need noise. It needs awareness. It needs you not to let exhaustion decide for you. It needs you to pause every time a thought urges you to give up and ask, does this bring peace or does it only bring emptiness? There are moments you feel very alone in this process, because not everyone understands the kind of tension you are carrying. From the outside, everything looks normal. You still live, still work, still smile when needed. But inside, a deeper layer is being touched. And very few people have stayed in that depth long enough to understand this feeling. And that loneliness sometimes makes you want to choose the easier path, just to be like everyone else. But be honest with yourself. You never truly wanted to live a life identical to the majority, not because you are better than anyone, but because your soul is not at peace with shallowness. And if you were created with such sensitivity, then what you face will carry the same depth. You are not placed in this battle because you are weak. You are here because you are capable of standing in it. You are beginning to notice that each time you do not rush to react, Each time you choose prayer instead of argument, choose listening instead of concluding, the weight in your heart shifts. It does not disappear immediately, but it moves, as if something is being held in place, not allowing you to slide into complete despair. And that is not accidental. That is a sign of protection. A question is slowly forming within you, even if you have not spoken it. If this truly has no meaning, why does it touch you so deeply? And if it does have meaning, then how are you being asked to walk through it? Not blindly, not clinging through emotion, but walking with awareness, with patience, and with a deeper trust in what you cannot yet see. You are not being called to end this story in haste. You are being invited to understand it before deciding it. There are doors that do not close with a loud slam, but with gradual neglect. And if you are not careful, you will call that neglect wisdom, when in truth it is only exhaustion made reasonable. Allow yourself to slow your breathing here, not to escape, but to see more clearly, not to hold on, but to avoid handing away something you have not yet fully understood. Because if there is one thing that is certain, it is this: you are not facing something small, and what is not small should never be decided when the heart is depleted. You are still in the process, and this process, though tense, is not finished yet. It is leading you closer to the core of the matter, where you will no longer ask, "Should I give up?" but will begin to ask, "How am I being called to stand?" And when that question appears, you will know you have crossed into another threshold. There is a very quiet moment when you begin to realize this is no longer only about what you feel. It is touching how you stand, not how you stand before that person, but how you stand before your own life. How much pressure you can hold without losing your direction. How long you can remain in uncertainty without letting fear write your decisions for you. And right here, a mark begins to reveal itself. You may have already noticed it, even if you have not named it yet. A repeating number appearing at very unusual times. Not when you feel strongest, but when you feel most unsteady. Not when you are certain, but when you are standing in between. That number does not come to explain everything. It comes to remind you that a foundation is being laid, even when you cannot yet see the structure. And that number carries a very clear message. Protection does not always arrive in a comfortable form. Some foundations are built in warm sunlight, but some foundations can only be laid under pressure. The number 444 carries the meaning of a solid foundation and protection. Not protection from every collision, but protection so that you do not collapse in the collision. When this number appears, it is not saying everything will be gentle. It is saying that what is being built will not be easily shaken if you do not leave your position too soon. You once thought that if you were protected, you would not have to feel this tired. But now you are learning something different. That true protection is not the kind that removes you from the battlefield, but the kind that keeps you standing within it. If this were not protected, it would have collapsed long ago. If you were not being held, you would have let go during the heaviest days. The fact that you are still here is not because you are stubborn. It is because something is keeping you from falling. You are beginning to see more clearly that the pressure you are carrying is not a sign that you are doing something wrong. It is a sign that you are in the right place to be built deeply. Shallow foundations can be set very quickly, but foundations strong enough to support something large require time, weight, and even early cracks to be reinforced properly. And you are in that stage, even though you never asked for it. There is a line that echoes very softly, yet very firmly, like a pillar in the wind. God is my refuge and my strength, an ever-present help in trouble. That line does not promise that trouble will disappear. It promises that you will not be abandoned inside it. And sometimes, that promise alone is enough to help you stand one more day, not because you see the light, but because you trust that the ground beneath you has not collapsed. You have begun to distinguish between two kinds of tiredness. One kind makes you want to run, to close off, to stop feeling altogether. And another kind, deeper, but not empty. It makes you quiet. It slows you down. It does not push you to give up, but pushes you to dig deeper. This second kind of tiredness often comes with things that are truly being built. And if you are honest, you will know which kind you are in. You also begin to notice that every time you quickly define this as a mistake, as unnecessary, as something you should not be dealing with, something inside you reacts, not with emotional explosions, but with a very clear lack of agreement, as if your soul is softly saying, "Not yet." And the more you try to label it, the more effort it takes to believe that label. Anything that requires force to believe is usually not the final truth. The number 444 does not appear so that you depend on signs. It appears to remind you that some things are being built when you cannot see them, that not every process gives you immediate proof. Some processes only give you steadiness. And if you look back, you will see that you have stood through things you once believed you could not survive, not because you suddenly became stronger, but because your foundation was deeper than you realized. If you have seen this number repeated during this season of your life, or another number that brings you a similar feeling, then hold it as a reminder, not as an answer. And if you are willing, you can share the number that resonates with you most, not to explain it, but to acknowledge that you are paying attention, that you are not asleep in the middle of your own process. You do not need to do anything special with this mark. You only need to let it do what it is meant to do. Keep you here long enough for the foundation to complete its work. Some people walk away right when things are beginning to stand, simply because they mistake pressure for a sign to leave. And you are being given the chance not to repeat that cycle, not through stubbornness, but through awareness. You may still not see the bigger picture. You may still have many unanswered questions, but you have something very important that not everyone has at this stage. You have not let go in the dark, and that says more than you think. It says that even though you are tired, you still believe this is worth understanding fully. And that belief does not come from emotion. It comes from a deeper place where you know you are being built, not broken. Let this part settle within you. There is no need to force a conclusion right now. A foundation does not need to rush. It only needs to be deep enough. And when what is being built begins to reveal itself, you will no longer ask why you had to go through this stage. You will understand that without it, nothing above could have stood. You are still on the journey, and this journey is slowly showing you that true protection is not the absence of storms, but not being swept away by them. And you, even if you have not fully realized it yet, are still standing. At this point, you no longer ask whether you have the strength to continue. The question has changed shape. It has become this: if you stop here, what part of you will die first? Not the connection, not that person, but the part of you that has begun to live differently since all of this started. You have tasted something very hard to name, and once you have tasted it, you cannot pretend you never felt it. You begin to understand why the thought of giving up appears so strongly right now, not because everything is meaningless, but because you are moving closer to the core. There is a very quiet rule in spiritual life: the closer you get to the place where you must stand firmly, the stronger the pull to leave becomes. No one is tempted to quit while they are wandering around the edges. The urge to walk away only appears when you have gone deep enough that staying begins to have real consequences. You once believed that giving up would bring relief, but if you are honest with yourself, you know that is not what is waiting for you on the other side of that decision. What appears is not peace, but emptiness, not freedom, but a hollow feeling that is hard to name. as if you just turned your back on something that had not yet been born. And that feeling is what made you hesitate, even if you did not want to admit it. There is a very important difference you are learning to recognize. Some things end because they have completed their purpose, and some things end because people were not patient enough to reach that purpose. From the outside, the two can look the same, but what they leave behind inside is completely different. One leaves wholeness, the other leaves a question that repeats itself for years afterward. You have lived with questions like that before, and you do not want another one. You begin to look at this connection with different eyes, no longer only as something that causes pain or confusion, but as something that forces you to mature in places you once avoided. It requires you to learn how to stand without control, how to love without manipulation, how to wait without losing your dignity. These are not easy lessons, and they are not lessons you can learn alone. There are battles you were not designed to fight by yourself, not because you are weak, but because what is being entrusted to you is too heavy to carry alone. You are used to managing on your own, enduring on your own, solving everything on your own. But there are parts of this journey that do not open when you rely only on personal strength. They open only when you learn to stand in true unity. Not unity born from fear of loss, but unity oriented toward something greater than each individual self. You have wondered why every time you think about leaving, your heart hurts in a very different way. Not like sadness, not like regret. It feels like mourning, as if you are preparing to bury a possibility that never had the chance to take shape. And that feeling is a clue. It tells you this is not only about present emotions, but about the person you are being shaped to become. You are not being called to cling in desperation, but you are also not being called to let go in fear. There is another way of standing, harder than both holding and releasing. It is standing in conscious surrender, not rushing to define outcomes, not using emotion as a compass, not using exhaustion as an excuse. Standing there with your feet planted on a foundation that is still being built, and allowing what needs to be revealed to have enough space to emerge. You may have hoped that by now, everything would be clearer, that you would receive a decisive sign, an answer that could not be argued with. But instead, you are given something else: stretched patience, tested faith. And the question that repeats is no longer go or stay, but who are you becoming while you wait? And that is the true center of this season. You begin to see that if you leave right now, you will carry with you not only sadness, but an unfinished version of yourself, a version that has not yet learned the lesson it came to learn. And life has its own way of bringing you back to unfinished lessons, often in a different form, but with the same weight. You are not afraid of difficulty. You are afraid of having to learn the same lesson again at a higher cost. There is a line that was written for moments exactly like this: do not grow weary in doing what is right, for if you do not give up, in due time you will reap. That line does not promise that you will see the harvest immediately. It simply reminds you that staying has meaning, even when results are not yet visible. And sometimes, that meaning is what keeps you from walking away when everything inside you wants to close this chapter just to be done. You are not being tested because you are not good enough. You are being tested because what is being placed in your hands is large enough to require endurance. Not everyone is invited into processes like this, and not everyone chooses to stay when the pressure reaches its peak. But if you are here, in this moment, perhaps your soul already knows giving up now will not bring freedom, only a delay of what cannot be avoided. You do not need to prove anything to anyone. You do not need to justify your hesitation. You only need to be honest with the deepest feeling inside you. The feeling that knows you are standing before a threshold, where perseverance is no longer a vague virtue, but a concrete action, day by day, choice by choice. And those small choices are shaping the person you are becoming, whether you realize it or not. Let this settle, not as a command, but as illumination. You are not being called to endure meaninglessly. You are being called to stand until what is being born completes its form. And if you are still here, still reading, still listening, perhaps you have already answered that calling, even if you have not spoken it out loud. A very different kind of silence is beginning to appear within you. Not the silence of avoidance, but the silence of someone who has heard enough to know they need to listen more deeply. You no longer react immediately to every thought that pulls you away. You begin to recognize that not every voice in your mind comes from the same source, and that discernment does not come from effort, but from experience. You have heard enough whispers shaped like logic, but leaving a bitter aftertaste. Voices telling you that you are too tired to continue, that things should have been easier, that if this were right, it would not cost you so much. But you are also beginning to notice something very important. Every time you follow those voices, nothing inside you becomes lighter. There is only a quiet shrinking, as if you just made yourself smaller to avoid impact. And then, in the rare moments when you stop trying to explain anything, stop trying to reach conclusions, you sense another voice. It does not push. It does not rush. It does not drive you toward a quick decision. It simply invites you to stand still, breathe, and remember who you are when fear is not leading you. That voice is not loud, but it has weight, not a crushing weight, but the weight of truth. You begin to understand that true guidance never makes you feel like you must betray yourself in order to feel at peace. It may ask you to wait, ask you to humble yourself, ask you to release control, but it never asks you to give up your dignity, your hope, or what you know has been placed in your hands with purpose. And when you place these two kinds of voices side by side, the difference becomes clearer than you ever expected. Something very subtle is happening. You are no longer asking the old question in the old way. Before, you asked, should I continue from a place of exhaustion? Now you are beginning to ask, how should I continue from a place of greater awareness? The second question does not look for an escape. It looks for right alignment, and that shift, though small, shows that you have crossed a threshold many people do not even realize they have passed. You also begin to realize that not all silence carries the same meaning. There is silence of abandonment, and there is silence of preparation. There is silence that comes when something has died, and there is silence that comes when roots are growing deeper underground. Before, you heard silence and immediately assumed the worst. Now you stay with it longer. You observe what it is doing within you, instead of only asking what it is taking away. This does not make the pain disappear immediately, but it changes the nature of the pain. It is no longer the pain of panic, but the pain of growth. No longer the feeling of being dragged, but the feeling of being stretched. And stretching is always uncomfortable. But stretching is also the only way to make space for something larger than what you could hold before. You begin to understand that the hardest part of this journey is not waiting for an outcome. The hardest part is not allowing the waiting to turn you into someone you do not want to become, not bitter, not closed off, not defined by defense. And you are learning this not through theory, but through every moment you choose not to speak words that would wound, every time you choose prayer instead of reaction, every time you choose to believe that what is unseen does not mean what is non-existent. At times you wonder whether you are convincing yourself to stay in something hopeless, but then you look back at who you were months ago, years ago, and you see something clearly. You are no longer the same person, not because circumstances changed, but because there is more depth within you. And that depth did not appear by accident. It was formed in seasons when you did not run away while things were still unclear. You are learning to stand in paradox, to believe while not yet seeing, to hope while not controlling, to love without clinging. This is not a comfortable state, but it is a real one, and only in what is real can something real be born. Everything else is temporary, no matter how stable it appears. You no longer need to force yourself to believe that everything will be fine tomorrow. You only need to know that today, you are not moving against the deepest truth within you. And when you do not betray that truth, whatever the final outcome may be, you will not lose yourself along the way. This matters more than you once realized, because some losses are not about losing a connection, but about losing inner wholeness. You begin to sense a kind of peace that is very thin, very light, but very real. It does not come from having every question answered. It comes from no longer fighting yourself. You no longer have to strain to prove that you are right or wrong. You are simply staying with the truth as it slowly unfolds, little by little, at a pace you can bear. And perhaps this is the transition you did not realize you were crossing. No fireworks, no clear sign, only a very quiet change in how you listen, how you stand, how you do not rush to leave when the path becomes hard to read. You are learning to trust without controlling the outcome, and that is a kind of freedom very few people ever touch. You have not reached the destination yet, but you have left the old place, and that alone is a greater step than you imagine. Let this new silence continue to do its work. Do not fill it with rushed conclusions. Do not break it with old fears, because within this silence, what needs to be born is slowly taking shape, and you, by staying, are allowing it to be formed in the right way. There is something very strange you begin to notice when you look back at the path you have just walked. The hardest days were not the days when everything clearly fell apart. They were the days when nothing happened at all. No bad news, no good news. Only waiting stretched long enough to reveal what was truly operating inside you. And it was in those days that you could finally see what kind of foundation you were standing on. You once thought that if this were truly leading to something good, you would feel stronger in an obvious way. But reality turned out differently. You do not feel unshakable. You feel softer, slower, more sensitive. And that used to worry you. But now you are beginning to understand that this softness is not weakness. It is the sign of a different kind of strength, one that does not need to tense itself just to survive. There is a rule that spiritual life never breaks. Before something is given to you, you must be wide enough to hold it. And that wideness rarely comes from easy days. It comes from seasons where you are stretched, made to wait, placed in situations with no quick exit, not to drive you into despair, but to loosen your dependence on old ways that are no longer enough for the next part of the journey. You once hoped that if you persevered long enough, everything would suddenly become clear. Instead, you received something else, the ability to stand in the dark without panicking. Before, darkness always made you want to act immediately. Speak immediately, decide immediately, just to escape the discomfort. Now, you still do not like the dark, but you no longer let it control you. And that is a very big change, even though it makes no noise. You are beginning to see that this is not only preparing you for an external outcome, it is preparing you to become the person who will not lose that outcome when it arrives. Because some things, if they come too early, become a burden. Some promises, if given to a heart that is not yet deep enough, will cause collapse instead of elevation. And you are being held back not because you are blocked, but because you are being preserved. There are moments when you ask yourself why you have to walk this path, while others seem to move through lighter, clearer connections. But then you remember that you were never created to walk paths identical to the majority. You carry a depth that requires whatever touches you to carry depth as well. And depth takes time. It does not accept rushed endings. You begin to see waiting no longer as a punishment, but as a space being kept open for what is coming. not the emptiness of loss, but the emptiness of preparation, like land allowed to rest before a new planting season. On the surface, it looks like nothing is happening, but underneath, structure is being restored, roots are being strengthened. What was fragile has been removed. And in that space, you are learning not to define your value by whether everything has arrived yet. You are learning to trust that your presence in this process has value in itself, not because you are perfect, but because you did not leave. You stayed with the question. You stayed with the uncertainty. And that requires a kind of courage very few people are willing to cultivate. You are also beginning to understand that if this were only a passing feeling, it would have faded long ago. If it were only a personal desire, time would have worn it down. But instead, it is still there, changing shape, changing intensity, yet not disappearing. And what does not disappear after being tested for long enough usually carries a reason beyond the original emotion. You may not yet see what will be born from this, but you are beginning to see the person who will come out of it, a person who reacts less, but is deeper, less rushed, but more grounded, less driven to prove, but clearer about what they cannot betray. And if this waiting is the price of becoming that person, then it is not wasted. You once thought victory would come in the moment when everything changed externally. Now, you are realizing that another kind of victory has already taken place. Even if you have not named it, you are no longer running from this process. You are no longer looking for escape through denial. You are staying with open eyes, with a heart still able to feel, and with trust that does not yet require immediate proof. There are seasons in life that are not measured by results, but by faithfulness. Faithfulness to what you know is true, even when you have not seen it completed. Faithfulness to your clarity, even when emotions fluctuate. Faithfulness to the deepest calling, even when no one else hears it. And this season of your life carries exactly that nature, not flashy, not comfortable, but very real. You are moving very close to the point where things begin to turn, not because you have done enough, but because you have stayed long enough for the foundation to finish its work. What is coming does not need you to be stronger. It needs you to be steady. And that steadiness is being formed day by day, moment by moment, each time you do not quit when no one is watching. Let this sink in, not as a rushed promise, but as a quiet confirmation. You are not stuck. You are being held, not to waste time, but to keep you from losing yourself when what was promised begins to appear. And if you have come this far, it is very possible that the hardest part is already behind you, even if you cannot feel it yet. There is only one step left, not a step toward the outcome, but a step toward the completion of the inner process. And that step does not require you to run. It only asks you to keep standing a little longer, with everything you have become along the way. You are standing at a very fragile boundary, where everything on the outside still looks like yesterday, but inside, nothing is the same anymore. There is no loud sign announcing that you are near completion, no dramatic moment to mark the transition, only a very quiet, yet very real change. You are no longer the person who first stepped into this journey, and that alone tells you that the process has completed its most important work. You begin to understand that this story was never only about where a connection would lead. It has always been about who you have become while waiting. If the outcome arrived while you were still the old version of yourself, you would not be able to hold it. If the answer were given before you were steady enough, you would doubt the answer itself. So what you have lived through was not meaningless delay. It was precise preparation for what is about to be entrusted to you. There is a line written for moments like this, when a person is at the end of their strength but has not yet seen the destination. The one who endures to the end will be saved. That line does not speak about speed. It speaks about staying when emotional motivation is gone, staying when there is no recognition, staying when the only thing holding you upright is the knowledge that the deepest truth within you has not been betrayed. You realize that the greatest danger was never the storm you already survived. The greatest danger has always been leaving too soon, not because God is unfaithful, but because people often give up right before they can see what is being built in the dark. You did not come this far to turn away at the final stretch, not because you forced yourself, but because you were led step by step, even when you did not realize it. You begin to look at the present silence with different eyes, no longer as a sign of absence, but as a sign of deep work, like a seed resting in the soil, unseen and unheard. Yet life is forming in the hidden place. If you dig it up just to be sure it is still there, you will destroy the very thing you are waiting for. And you have learned how not to dig anymore. A verse from the Psalms echoes softly, yet firmly enough to keep you standing. Be still before the Lord and wait for Him, not waiting in despair, but waiting in trust. Not waiting to endure, but waiting with the awareness of someone who knows the work is happening, even when their eyes cannot yet see the result. You have not been forgotten. You are being held in the right rhythm. You also begin to see that what felt like loss in this season was actually necessary pruning. Misaligned expectation, illusions of control, ways of loving that exhausted you. All of it was removed, not to empty you, but to keep you from carrying what no longer belongs in what is coming next. You cannot step into a new season with old baggage without paying a price. You once feared that if you kept standing here, you would lose too much. But now you see the opposite clearly. If you were to leave now, what you would lose is not that person, not the outcome, but the integrity you have carefully built throughout this journey. And that integrity is more valuable than any version of this story you once imagined. You were never promised that everything would unfold the way you expected, but you are being assured that what unfolds will not make you smaller. It will not strip you of dignity. It will not demand that you trade your deepest truth for a false sense of peace. Whatever the specific outcome may be, you will walk out of this with a foundation that cannot be easily shaken. Now, as you look back over the entire journey, you can see clearly what once felt only vague. The storm did not come to destroy you. It came to reveal what ground you were standing on. The pressure did not come to eliminate you. It came to refine you. And the waiting did not come to disorient you. It came to realign you with your true center. You do not need to rush into the next chapter. That chapter will open at the right time. What you are asked to do now is simple, but not easy. Continue standing in who you have become. Do not return to old reactions. Do not diminish the truth you have seen. Do not deny the work that has been done in you just because the result has not yet appeared before your eyes. This story does not end with a complete explanation. It ends with a confirmation. You did not quit. You did not turn away when everything became hardest to read, and that alone has placed you in a position very few are willing to stand in. The position of one who has been prepared, not merely one who has been waiting. What is coming will require exactly who you are now, not who you were at the beginning. And when that moment opens, you will understand why nothing could happen faster. You will understand why you had to walk through every stretch of this road, every layer of pressure, every moment that once felt meaningless. No step was wasted, no tear was unnecessary. Your story is still being written, not by haste but by faithfulness, not by passing emotion, but by a solid foundation built in silence. And what you are carrying into the next chapter is not an unanswered question, but a soul steady enough to receive the answer when it arrives.